who has been torn away from their security blanket, their parents, the ones who stopped the boogeyman from terrorizing the nights and curing their boo-boos when they scrape their knees. Now just imagine how they mightst feel when the CPS meant to protect them tears them away from their supposed abusers and places them with strangers who have zero comforting skills. They need to be calm. They are confused, lost, panicked, and needing their parents, but CPS took them away for the purpose of saving them. The kids don't even know why, and they are told that the parents they attach to no longer want them. What do you think that does? Do you think that this is how protecting children is supposed to look? Abolish CPS.
Psalm 127:3. Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from Him. This suggests children are a precious gift from God to be valued and cared for.
In the United States, a child a minute is taken into DHS, CPS, and so on custody. The reality is their pics are already selected, you just don't know it. Being perfect no longer matters. It's what the adopting families are looking for.
Who is it stealing the children, you ask?
From caseworker to the White House, the buck stops at all levels, just not where it is supposed to be. The services your family needs, we the people have paid for to ensure your reunification. Title IV says, reunify at all costs. United, we stand means nothing to us when it comes to family values. Children are being ripped away from their families. Parents are reverting to addictive behaviors to cover the pain. The trauma caused by child removal is just being recognized, and the results are atrocious. Termination of parental rights is not healthy for anyone, just profitable for the people enforcing the line.
It's time Washington listens to the cries of our children, the wails of their mothers, and the rage growing in the fathers. These are our children. Keep your damn hands off them. We are coming to act on the behalf of the children God gave us to protect, and you kidnapped.
The United States CPS makes upwards of $3 billion per day on trafficking and selling our children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud.
We need to stop CPS and abolish CPS.com is leading the way. Join us.
Everybody, welcome to CPS Victims Hunting Justice. I am your host, the CPS Punisher, and don't we have a doozy for you guys tonight? Tonight, for the first time, we will actually have a real 100% legit caseworker on. And before we get going any further with this, I want to let everybody know that I will not tolerate any sort of bashing, any sort of comments that are derogatory to her, any sort of mean, ill-willed comments, anything of the sorts. She's not here for that, and we're thankful that she did come in so that she can clear up some of these things that we question constantly on this show. Maybe we'll get some answers tonight. Maybe we'll get some information that we don't have that we need that will help us get our kids back. So look at this as a positive opposed to a negative. So again, I will not tolerate any sort of negativity put towards her. I will anybody that does do that, I will ban from here and never again will you be able to see. And I would hate to do that because I like to think that we have more of a respectful audience than that. So that being said, don't forget, guys, if you've got questions, put them in the chat, which is somewhere over here. Hold on a second. I'm just doing this. You deal with me here. I've got this new monitor up that's check with this. All right. So we've got the chat, which should be right here somewhere. Let me just find it for us. Oh yeah, while we're right here, I don't ever put this stuff out here. But hey, if you guys want to help also support the stream, right here, you can do this. Try that right there. That's the link to support the stream. Just click on that, and then they'll send us funds to help us with the show. We'd be totally grateful there. Where is the chats here? I'll find the chats. We all know where they are. I'll get to them, but let's get Vinny and Herbert out here before we bring out our guests. Vinny, Herbert, here we are, gentlemen.
Good evening, Darren.
Good
evening. Hey, Darren.
How we doing,
Good evening, Herbert.
Hey, Bill.
You're the one that put this whole thing together, Herbert. So do you want to give an intro to our guest for tonight?
Sure, I'd like to give an intro. I happened to meet Debbie through some mutual friends, and I said, would she be interested in coming on? They said they weren't sure because a lot of CPS workers really don't want to get involved outside of the job. And she, after talking to her a little bit, letting her know what a lot of parents are going through, and that every state is different on how CPS is handled. It's not federally across the board, but everything. Some things are, some things are not, but it's also individualized on how people handle situations. So I asked her if she would like to come on the show. I sent her one of our shows. She viewed that, and she agreed to come on.
Right on.
Now, she won't be showing her face, but she will answer all of our questions about, things that we have concerns about, right, Darren? Like as children are given away, as CPS makes money, and the bonuses that CPS workers make, all of that stuff, she'll be able to address. She's very transparent.
Very good. Vinny, you have anything that you want to say before we bring her out?
I just hope that all you watchers out there are heeding this warning that we are giving you on being professional and asking professional questions, because it is beneficial for us to get answers that we may not get from other workers. So this is time for us to ask appropriate questions of this caseworker and be very respectful to her for coming on tonight.
All right. That's good stuff, Vinny. It's really good stuff. Well, to no avail. Miss Debbie Jackson, here she is. She's out here, folks. But Debbie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. I thank you guys so much for having me.
You're very welcome.
Honestly honored to be on your show. I am so grateful to help some of these families kind of navigate our system. And, I can't talk in regards to good cop, good caseworker, bad caseworker, good doctor, bad doctor, but I can absolutely 100% help in regards to navigating some of the systems that we have. So I can't wait for some of these questions. So let me know.
All right. Herbert, your guest, buddy. You want to start with the question for her?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to, Debbie, if you would explain to us your background and skills and experiences that you have had working with parents and children.
So I have been in Child Protective Services for the past 6 years. I have worked directly with families in regards to investigations, meaning, a report has been made, an allegation has been made in regards to child abuse or neglect, and we go out and figure out if that allegation is true or not. And then we determine next steps in regards to, what those findings may be. I've also worked in regards to intake, determining if those reports, those allegations meet our criteria, of if those are actually plausible. If a person calls in and says XYZ has happened, do those meet our criteria of, is that abuse and neglect, or does that meet our law or our policy of getting involved with the family? So I have several years of experience. I have taken a child into custody and successfully reunified that child with their family. So I'm pretty well versed in our system.
I'm just curious, how many cases does a caseworker have average?
When I started, I had 30 families.
Jesus.
30 families, 30
Wow.
30 individuals, not only the mother, the father, the individual child, the foster parent, who have had to meet individually every month to determine their safety, to determine their quality of life, to determine their services that they're receiving. 30 families.
Now, you know that I'm law enforcement. I told you that, retired law
Yes,
enforcement. Have you ever had the opportunity where you had to have a law enforcement officer with you?
several times. Several times.
Can you give us an example of why did you call that law enforcement officer? Why didn't you just go to the house and handle it yourself?
So there have been reports in regards to individuals who are well versed with law enforcement, who have had interactions that have determined that they individually have been unsafe, or the report itself has determined that maybe it might be unsafe for a caseworker to be out by themselves to meet them individually. Law enforcement it is a resource that we utilize, depending on the situation, depending on the family. I have utilized them once or twice, but sometimes I've been able to build rapport with a family that doesn't require that.
Okay. What's her name there? Teef? Teef has a question. She says, if you have had open placement case, doing very well in it, then have a baby, are you normally supposed to take? Oh, wait, it skipped. What does it say there, Vinny?
Are you normally supposed to take the newborn baby without even looking into services completed?
It very well depends on the history with the family. So if a family is very engaged, actively in any kind of mental health, substance treatment, it depends on their level of engagement and their level of success that they're able to have a child remain in their custody. I've seen cases where a newborn baby is able to go home with their parent despite their parent having other children in child protective custody. So it really depends on the situation and it depends on the level of engagement.
Okay. Now, I've heard a number of cases where babies were taken from neonatal ICU right after it was born, right into CPS custody. How and why does that happen?
I mean, it depends on several different scenarios. Every family has their own circumstances. So it could be substance use. It could be domestic violence. It could
Did you
be
say substances like substance abuse,
yes, sir.
illicit drugs? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it could be the level. It could be the type of substance. It could be something as simple as marijuana, which a lot of times Child Protective Services, depending on the state, doesn't get involved in. Or it could be fentanyl. It could be methadone. It could be not necessarily methadone because that could be prescribed, but illicit drugs. It
Yeah.
could be the level of domestic violence if a parent isn't able to leave a domestic violent relationship due to the safety of their own individual or the safety of their kids. I mean, there's a lot of things that contribute to the safety of a kid.
Yeah. Well, that's it too. They're asking you to be Superman, and that's got to be tough. Like you get it.
100%.
You get a God badge, really, and it's up to you. And like you said, you could walk into a house where if you have domestic abuse, you have illicit drug use, you have the house is filthy, but both parents have a good job and they take care. Like there's all kinds of things that go into this. People don't take that into consideration when the caseworker comes to your house, and what you're used to seeing and what we feel as parents is what you're looking at. You know what I mean? Like it's a tough situation because we don't look at you being able to see the mom that hasn't fed her kid in 6 days or things like that. We look at it as we're good parents, we're doing what we're doing, and here you are coming into our homes telling us because the dishes are dirty that we're in this situation. But yet no one understands where you come from.
Absolutely. And we try to take in. So when I've worked in the department, we try to take into consideration like the backgrounds of individuals, and like sometimes we'll work with people who come from different countries and have different belief systems and different just ways of life, and to take that lens off and to understand that maybe not everyone sits down at a table to eat dinner. Maybe they all congregate in the living room and eat out of the same pot. We really, and I can really only speak for myself. There's good cops, there's bad cops. There's good caseworkers, there's bad caseworkers. There's good doctors, there's bad doctors. Yep. I can only speak for myself in regards to trying to take that lens off and meeting people, meeting families where they're at, and trying to incorporate, like, ultimately the safety of that child. Is a child eating? It doesn't matter if they're eating at a table, if they're eating out of the pot. They're eating.
Right.
Are they receiving the education in the home, or are they receiving the education at school? Yes. Are they receiving medical necessity, or is it depending on the family's belief system? They don't have to be vaccinated. They don't have to have those criterias to be healthy. Are you meeting those needs of the child to to really make sure that they're safe, you know. So making sure that those basic needs are being met is 100% a lot of the determination of a caseworker.
So, if you don't mind, if we could reverse this, you had said that you've been into the intake and everything. What are some of the criteria needed to meet the standard of abuse and neglect? Like, what is it when they make the call? What do you have to find somebody, well, substantiate somebody as far as abuse and neglect goes to kick this thing off? What is it that you guys look for?
So we're going to reverse that a lot. So it's not even in regards to a substantiation or an indication of abuse or neglect. We're going to determine that it meets criteria for a caseworker to be even involved.
Okay.
And states differentiate. Like, there's so many different criterias from one state to another. One state might become involved just due to simple marijuana abuse or use. One state may become involved in regards to the form of physical punishment. It differentiates from state to state. It is not a federal, like, it is not state to state. It
Right.
depends on the individual state in regards to what their criteria is. And so a lot of families should ask why the department is involved. Why does this report meet criteria in regards for a caseworker to be involved with the family? You know, should it be substance use? Should it be domestic violence, the exposure to domestic violence? Should it be the extent of physical discipline? Should it be sexual abuse? It depends on the level of abuse that is occurring for a department to get involved.
Okay. Now, is that determined by, I know you said it's state to state, but are those things determined by, let's say you have a chart that says, okay, it's met these 8 things out of 10, or is it kind of up to the person that is talking to determine this stuff?
So there is a minimal, criteria.
Okay.
There is a standard decision-making model for most states in regards to it meets criteria in regards to XYZ. So the state that I worked for, which I'm not going to disclose, is physical abuse to a certain degree. Is it going to be a bruise or injury is left? Physical abuse to an extent. You can spank your child, but you can't leave a mark. Or you can spank your child, it can leave a mark, but to an extent. Whatever that state determines is the level of discipline. And that's just an example. That determines if a caseworker even gets involved.
All right, so you have a question from one of our viewers. She said, why would a brand new drop cord powering a outlet side porch light be a hazard to an almost 16 and 14-year-old?
I apologize. What was that?
One of our watchers here, Cricket, asked, why would a brand new drop cord powering a outlet side porch light be a hazard to a 16 and almost 14-year-old?
I don't know what state that's in. It depends on the state. It depends on... So the state that I worked in, not necessarily would it be something that meets our criteria to be involved in. A 14-year-old is a child that can make safety decisions. It really all depends on the state. And honestly, you should really ask the caseworker involved why that met criteria.
That's huge. Is that a standard thing that you can do? Is there like a complaint or a question form or something that these people could ask? Do they do a FOIA, or is it just a blatant, just ask them point blank what the problem is?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You should ask your caseworker, like, what is the safety concern? Why is my child not safe in my care? What can I do to mitigate that issue?
Right. So
Can
that's
I fix that drop cord? Yeah, let me do that in the next couple days. Let me fix that issue in order to make sure my child doesn't come into child protective custody.
yeah, that's something that we never
I
talk
have a
about. We
question.
never talk about this original question. We never ever talk about at the beginning, because a lot of this could be nipped in the butt, right? If you just did that.
Absolutely. 100%. If a caseworker is involved with you, what can I do from the get-go? What can I do to make sure my child does not come into custody? What can I do to ensure my child stays in my care or in my partner's care or my former partner's care to make sure that they're not in the system? Me personally, the state that I work for, we don't want children. We don't want children in our custody.
Right.
We do not have the caseworkers. We do not have the foster parents in order to provide the level of care for a child that a child deserves. We do our best. We 100% do our best. We make sure that they're fed, they're clothed, their basic needs are met, that they're safe. We do our best, 100%. But every parent has the right and the responsibility to take care of their child. And we want to ensure that that happens.
Man, I wish you were one of every caseworkers.
I have a question for you. Are you familiar with some of the states other than your state?
I'm familiar with some of New England, yes.
Oh, you're familiar with New England? Okay. So,
So
like, you know about Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, places like that?
Some of it, yes. To an extent, yes.
So
Okay.
how do you feel about the way caseworkers are handling cases in Maine?
Like I said, in regards to good cop, good caseworker, bad caseworker, good doctor, bad doctor.
Gotcha.
Everyone, I don't think that people go. I can't speak for everyone. I cannot speak for everyone. I can speak for myself in regards to I did this job not not with any kind of malicious intent. I want kids to be cared for to the best of my ability, to the best of the parents' ability, and I will try to provide any kind of service that will encourage that. However, due to lack of resources, sometimes that's not available. Um, and it is so unfortunate. Whether it be for the parent or for the child. I if I could, I would have every service available, whether it be mental health, whether it be substance abuse, whether it be just the simple case management. Just having a support system for a family is massive, massive. And hopefully, I hope a caseworker, whether it be CPS, whether it be private, is just there to just support and say, hey, you're doing a good job. Let's see how we can support you to do even better.
Wow, that's awesome. You know what? There's so many people out here that are watching this right now. They're like, where is this woman and why was she not my caseworker? I'm
Oh,
being perfectly honest. Like, I'm watching these questions come up and they're just like, wow, because you're what it's supposed to be. You are when they set the system up, when they put the funding to it, when they did all of this stuff, like what you operate and function by is the way that this system's supposed to be. It's supposed to be let the parents parent and let the department assist these people to come through their times of need or whatever the situation is. Let us help you so that you can be a better family. And it just seems like, and unfortunately, people like you aren't, you're not what we're seeing out in this workforce. And like you said, you can only speak for you. So it must kill you when you hear things and you hear people have animosity towards you and hear people being angry towards the department. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, I want this, this, and this. But because there's so many bad cops, as you would say, or it seems to be so many that are just not caring about families and care about a paycheck, that it's got to be hard for you to take this as a job and like shrug that off every day because you must get it a lot.
100%. And I've heard like for every child that comes to care, or for every child that's adopted, or for whatever, you get a bonus or you get, any kind of incentive. And that is not the case. My incentive is to keep a child with their family. I want to reduce the trauma as much as possible. I want a parent to be able to parent. I want to, like I said, mitigate the amount of stressors or exterior just issues that cause a parent to not be able to parent safely
Right.
or it just I've worked with a lot of families. I've worked with a lot of parents where I'm like, you can parent. I know you love your kid. I know you have the potential to be able to care and love your kid and be able to protect them from any kind of outside sources, but have these barriers in place, whether they be lack of services or another individual who has just become involved in their life that is you know an a boundary or an issue that keeps them from their kid. And it's so infuriating. um it it really is. Like, I really I know the love that these parents have for their kids. um I truly do.
Okay, I have a question for you. In terms of incentives, I'm looking at a person that wrote something here, and it brings to my mind about placing a child foster care to say adoption. Do you or other caseworkers make extra money, like bonuses, for having a child put in adoption?
I have never received. uh, I've taken kids into custody due to safety issues. I've never received any kind of monetary or other financial bonus of receiving, uh, of getting any kind of incentive of taking a child into custody.
Okay,
Um,
that's you. That's you personally. But of the corrupt ones, do they receive anything? Remember
no,
the good cop, bad cop.
no,
Do the corrupt ones receive any extra monies for putting children
no,
into adoption?
absolutely not. No one
All,
receives any kind of monetary or any kind of incentive of receiving a child into custody. um and like our incentive is keeping a child in their parents' care. we
Right.
have we have such a shortage, if you will. That's not the correct terminology. A lack of placement, foster homes of people who are able to or willing, if that, to provide care for children. And it's kind of discouraging because I've sat in a hotel room several times with a child who's come into custody because there's no placement for them, and they're safe. They're safe. They are loved. They are cared for. Their basic needs are met. But no child deserves to be placed in a hotel room for any kind of period of time due to lack of
When you're in a
government.
hotel room, do you pay for that, or does the system pay for that?
It depends on the state, but it's the system. The system pays for that. And like I said, I've been in a room with several kids and several other caseworkers because it's multiple caseworkers at a time due to safety and all those other aspects to care for that child. And it depends, on the level of that need of that child. And, we do our best to make sure that not only their basic needs, but their emotional needs are met. We take the kids to, the pool in the hotel, or we take them to the park, or we take them
See, that's what I'm
to,
talking about.
to those their visits with their families, or what have you, just to make sure that they're okay.
Is there any such thing as end of the year bonuses across the board?
No. So I have received the only bonus I've ever received is not for taking a child into custody, but a retention, because the turnover rate of caseworkers is extremely high. Extremely high, because a caseworker is the amount of pressure on a caseworker, and like I said, I don't want to disparage you guys. I don't want to invalidate your guys' feelings in regards to a caseworker not meeting their expectations, because I know caseworkers are not meeting their expectations 100%. I have seen it. I have done it, because the caseload is criminal.
Mm-hmm.
To meet with 30 families, not 30 individuals, but 30 families.
Right.
Wow. That's a lot.
Within a month.
Yeah.
And that's the mom, that's the dad, that's each individual child, that's the foster parent, that's the resources in regards to the providers, the mental health, the school, what have you. For each 30 families, that is insane. It's an insane amount of work for a caseworker to do. So, like, why are we expecting one caseworker to have that expectation to meet a family? Like, that's it's insane. It's insane to have a caseworker to meet that expectation and to fulfill it appropriately.
Is it easier for a caseworker then to hold on, Herbert? Hold on. Is it easier for a caseworker then to throw their hands up and request TPR then than to work with that family?
No.
They don't have it in them. No,
that's not it at all. That's not it at all. It's no. Our expectations as a caseworker is to at least the minimum to have contact with each individual once a month.
Mm-hmm.
That's the expectation. That's not the requirement of the level of safety to determine a TPR, to determine if a child is safe with the parent. That's not that. Our minimum expectation is to make sure that we meet face to face with each family member, and then whatever. So when you receive a petition, you have a list of expectations, whether it be, in quote, engaging with the department, or, engaging in parenting classes, or engaging in substance abuse treatment, or, having your visitations with your child. So you have a list of expectations right from the get-go that you can literally go off of and start checking. Have I met my mental health requirement? Yes. I have a counselor in place. Yes, I've met this criteria. Yes, I see my child on a regular basis. Check. Yes, I'm in my substance abuse treatment. I have not relapsed. I have, completely committed to my medical assistant treatment. Check. You have your list right from the get-go. Look at your petition. You, right from the get-go, you have what expectations the court has signed off on. Look at that. Look at that and make sure you're meeting those expectations.
So you're saying that the court's expectations are different, might have different expectations than what you guys require.
Nope. When the department, or whenever the state, or when CPS writes up their petition, they list in that petition, in that specific petition, which you should be provided, what your expectations are.
Right.
So in that petition, you should have a whole list of what you're supposed to do in regards to reunification.
Okay. But at the end of the day, the court has the final say in what is actually in that list, correct? Like when you go to the court and they put that court order out, is that the final thing that we should make sure that we're 100% solid in doing and making sure is completed? I mean, obviously both of them are important, but to look at one over the other, like if you went to, let's say in Maine, you get a safety plan, but then you go to a jeopardy hearing. Then at that jeopardy hearing, they give you a list of needs required to seek free reunification. Now, those needs in that jeopardy hearing might be different than what was done in the safety plan.
Nope, that's what I'm saying. The safety plan is like an immediate. The safety plan is right here and now. In your petition, court-ordered, court expectations, those things are what need to be met. Immediacy in your safety plan is like right here and now. What is going to keep your child safe right here and right now?
Okay.
So those are the agreements that the parents have with the department, the expectations that the parents in the department, your CPS, have to make sure that your child is safe right now. The petition, the court document, is what we have in regards to what the court determines is the safety issues. The court expects you to follow these expectations to mitigate the risk to your child.
Let me ask you this. How do you feel about parents who do their own individual programs by themselves?
I mean, I think it's great that a parent does, what they can to mitigate any kind of risk, but it has to be within. It has to mitigate the risk. So if you're not going to go to a parenting class XYZ to reduce whatever risk it is, maybe you're going to go to something else. You're going to go to a different program that, mitigates that risk.
Well, say a parent did, the parenting classes that they wanted them to do. They did it on their own without their help. They also did their drug and alcohol assessment, and are in continuized counseling. How do you feel about that?
No, it's great. I think it's great. Whenever a parent can better themselves and a parent can be individually perfect, like they're bettering themselves, they're making sure that they're a healthy and safe individual so that they can, you know, parent their own child. That's wonderful. Um, you know, but work with your
How would
caseworker
how
in
would the
regards
court know
to
that?
go ahead.
How would the court know that the parent is doing that individually?
Work with your
Do they have to send?
caseworker. Work with your
Oh,
caseworker and say,
oh,
"Hey, I'm doing
oh,
XYZ. I don't want to
okay,
do ABC, but I'll do XYZ.
gotcha.
I don't want to go through this program because I don't feel like it meets the needs of my family, but I'll do XYZ, and I think that will mitigate any kind of risk to my child. I don't want to go to this parenting class, but I'll work on my mental health. I'll work on my substance use. I'll do, whatever it is that would like I said from the get go. You should be talking to your caseworker in regards to what is the risk, what is the issue here. That way, I know what I can fix. Is it my substance use? Okay, I know what I can do to fix my substance use. Is it domestic violence? Okay, I know what I can do to fix this issue. Is it my mental health? Okay, I know what I can do to fix my mental health, whether it's caseworker, whether it's a psychologist, whether it's management, whether it's you as a parent, as an individual, know what you can do to mitigate those risks. It should be put in your lap to determine how you can navigate that.
Yeah.
What is it? What is this risk to my child? And I can go from there.
How do you feel about like family sessions with counseling? Do you guys recommend that at any point?
It depends on the child, it depends on the age of the child, it depends on the situation. I'm not going to put a child who's been sexually abused with their perpetrator immediately into counseling sessions. That's absolutely not appropriate.
No, no.
However, is it something that's emotionally like trauma based? A parent struggling with, bipolar or what have you, or other mental health diagnoses, is that something that we can go into counseling sessions and we can navigate, being able to, you know, communicate effectively. What are our expectations? What are, a teenager might be able to communicate with their parent how to navigate that. But a 3-year-old is not going to be able to navigate that with their child. So it really depends on kind of the family dynamics.
Okay, so one of our watchers got us asked, in my case, they didn't honor my opinion and then gave me a set of goals that the family and I had no knowledge of in the family service plan that was requested 6 months. Will no real support in place?
Okay.
I'm gonna
So what
reread this 1 second. Let me kind of process
Yeah.
it. 1 second.
Yeah, I put it up on the screen for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I can read it. Let me process this 1 second. Okay. So, family team meeting. Family team meetings are essential. I highly recommend inviting any kind of services, any kind of personal or professional individual present in order to kind of navigate some of those goals, so that everyone kind of has a baseline. Case management is like a personal assistant. If you don't have a case manager in place, I highly, highly, highly recommend having a case manager in place. They're going to make referrals. They're going to make sure that you have any kind of services, any kind of, and even if a service isn't available, they'll make sure you're going to be on a wait list, and they're going to ensure that all of those basics are going to be in place. And if they're not in place, they're going to be able to report back to your caseworker that you're on a wait list. You are doing
Is that equivalent to an advocate? We use the word advocate, an adversary, an advocate person. That's on my side.
A case manager is an advocate for you. Yes.
So I wouldn't say advocate. I wouldn't say advocate because the advocate is so. A case manager is a person, like I said, a person that is like your personal assistant. I wish I was able to qualify for a case manager because they are. If you get a case manager that is great, they're gonna be fantastic for you. They're gonna make sure that your referrals are in for therapy, for med management, for whatever, doctor's appointments. They're going to make sure those things are in place. Like I said, good cop, good caseworker, bad caseworker, good case manager, bad case manager. You're going to have your people, and you have the right to request someone new. So if someone is not meeting your needs, you can request someone new.
So can you request the case manager?
I'm gonna put this service in place. I'm gonna throw this word out there for people who don't know.
Okay.
Ombudsman is a service that is not connected with CPS. They are a kind of third-party individual who are going to look into making sure your rights as a parent are being met. So you think a caseworker or a supervisor or what have you, the department, depending on the state, is meeting your basic needs, are doing their job, So if you don't think that a caseworker is doing their job, you need to reach out to the ombudsman program, and they will reach out to the department to make sure that they're doing their job. If a caseworker is not doing their job, you need to reach out to the ombudsman.
How do we reach out to ombudsmen in our states?
OBDUSMAN, ombudsman.
Yeah. How do we reach out? How do I find one?
So Google it. You can, and like I said, every department, every state is different. I don't know if it is nationwide, that every state has this service available. If not, you should really look into seeing if there's something that is similar. They are not connected to the department. They are not associated. They are not financed, or there's no monetary, like they don't receive any kind of monetary incentive or what have you from the department to kind of advocate for families. You should really look into an ombudsman program.
Does the family have to pay for an ombudsman?
What's that? No. Families don't have to pay for it. It is completely free for a family. Yeah, 100%.
But I can speak on that a little bit for you to help you understand a little bit about that, Debbie, because I've talked to the ombudsman more than 4 times and expressed my concerns and a lot of different things, and they told me they were not going to look into my case and that they would do nothing about it. So in Maine, I feel that the Budsman program is a wash. We shouldn't even have it because they never do anything for anyone in the families.
I'm so sorry that you had that experience. I don't know your
In the
situation.
perfect world, that's supposed to be that's supposed to be where you can turn to when you need an answer, though.
Right.
Because, like you said, you can't speak for everybody. You can't speak for who and this and that. But in the perfect world, in the perfect situation, that's supposed to take that off of there. I mean, this is the thing that people got to understand is that she's not saying that, oh, it's this, and then in your cases it didn't work. This is the standard that she has, that this is supposed to be what works and what doesn't. Now, if it doesn't in your situations, then that's unfortunate, but it's the way that it's supposed to be, and that's what she's speaking about. She's speaking like, if you have this line of defense, this is the way it's supposed to be. She obviously is aware of the differentials and that think people are not doing their jobs. But if they were, or if people were not stressed or whatever, or if they're doing it right. Now that's something for you though. That leads you to be able to make a complaint against your own budsman and say, look, you are not doing your job because you're supposed to be doing this, this, and this. And then that's where you got to take it. Because I'm saying Debbie's just speaking like the situation is like, look, this is where it's supposed to be, and this is supposed to be how to angle those situations. If it's not working, then there's a problem somewhere, and find that other resource to get there. This is not foolproof. They, like she says, they have 30 cases. They have 30 cases a month times how many people? That's 5. Let's just say that there's 5 people a month in that family. Each caseworker, that's 150 people in 1 month that these people have to go and see. So she's saying they're grossly overworked people, and it sucks. Look, I'm a victim of TPR. I don't care for my caseworker. She did a lot of bad things to me and everything. But in the same hand, you have to look at it from this woman's side. Look at the amount of people and the amount of things that they have to go through. And maybe their animosities are always like, this seems like the caseworker comes out and lashes out at you, or the ombudsman, or whatever. Or maybe they're just sick of the drive that's coming in on them. They are all so overworked and just so overtired that it just sucks for us, because we're looking for help in something that's very important, very, very important, if not the most important thing, and you get lashed back at or told that you can't do anything about it. It sucks. But on the other side of the fence, you have one person that's dealing with 1,000 people that doesn't have answers for anything, and they just keep getting pounded by these answers. It's a tough road, so we need to figure out how to bridge the relationship between us and them, because we're not going to get anywhere by fighting and fighting and fighting. But there's got to be something. Debbie, don't you agree that we can bridge this gap between, angry parents and the bad caseworker thing? There's got to be something that can be done to fix this thing, so it's not a he said, she said thing.
If anything, the partner, like the funding, 100%, like I said, I don't receive any extra incentive. I can honestly say I receive no monetarily or any kind of extra incentive of being a caseworker. Like, I truly 100% want to work with families. If anything, I want more funding to go to just services. Like,
Right.
there's such oh, I'm so frustrated in regards to like the wait lists of people waiting to get involved in like counseling and behavioral therapies and in just mental health and substance use. Like, the amount of people just waiting to receive any kind of services is freaking ridiculous. And I know that puts a barrier in families reunifying. It's absolutely insane. And so honestly, funding for the department or CPS or what have you, like, honestly, to have those services in place. So there are services where parents who have formally and successfully have worked with the department work as advocates to work with parents to navigate the system.
Right.
So it's called
CASA?
Partners for Parents.
Partners of
Parents
parents?
one second, I apologize. I'm so sorry. I should have had this information.
No
Parents as
worries.
partners.
Parents with partners is what it's called?
Parents as partners.
Okay.
And they work with the department and work with families. So they are former families that have navigated the system successfully. So whether they've had their kids removed from their care due to, circumstances, but they have successfully reunified, and they're able to work with other families to navigate the system and just be like, hey, I've been through it. I know what you're going through. I did XYZ. You've done XYZ. Let's navigate the system so that we can make sure your kid is back in your care. And like I said, it's called I apologize. Partners
Parents with partners.
Parents as partners. Something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
And so certain states have that service. And I think people really should be able to have access to that and to have someone be like, hey, I've gone through it. My kid was in custody, and I was able to successfully reunify. So to have that and to know, like, you can do this. You can do this. Absolutely, you can do this. You can navigate the system. You can make sure that you're a safe and healthy caregiver, and you can have your kid back in your custody. That is 100% what we want. I don't want your kid in custody. I don't want your kid to be placed with someone, especially when we have such few foster parents and such limited resources. Like I said, I've stayed in numerous hotel rooms to make sure that a kid has a warm room and food on their table, and make sure that their basic needs are being met. But that is no place for a child. I want to make sure that the child is placed back in their home. So to have that, service available, 100% utilize it. 100%.
KC, yeah, one of them is the KC Family Programs. I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's one of them that you guys can look into is KC Family Programs. So a lot of people are asking if it's in every state.
So
And
do you feel?
so I think what's funny here is what I'm seeing is that all of us are angry at the same thing. It's the funding. We're angry as parents because we didn't get the support that we needed for this to go through. Or most of us didn't get it in a timely way, so there was TPR. We didn't get the money, to do these things. You're angry because they're not giving you the money to do the things that you want to do to make a family get back to reunification. So we're both mad at the same thing. And let me clear up the whole incentives thing. The incentives thing comes from the Families First Act, which they said that you'll get incentivized, not you personally, but the department or whomever gets incentivized to adopt out a child within X amount of days. If they do it within a certain amount of time, they get a $4,000 bonus. That doesn't mean it's you. It goes to the state. It goes wherever. But that bonus is given out there, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's you personally. However, it does mean that to get a kid to be adopted, you have to take them. So in that realm, looks like it is incentivized for taking a kid. That's the way.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think it's that. And
I'm just telling you about the way that it looks from this side of us, like the angry parent side.
yeah,
That's the
no,
way.
I can see where you're coming from, but also like you have a child, you want to make sure that their needs are being met.
Of course.
And I don't think
absolutely.
I don't think it's incentivized for the caregiver or the department or whoever. I think it's like you have a child, you need to make sure that their basic needs are being met,
Right.
whether it be their insurance, whether it be their food, whether it be their clothing, whether it be their transportation to their education or what have you. There's a lot of that. I don't think that
But if you
And
look
like
at Title
I
IV
said,
funding, they are giving massive amounts of money out for this stuff. They're just not dispersing it in the way that it should be dispersed. Right? Is like that seem to be the problem?
what
Is
do you
that
mean
where
by
you
that?
well, if you look at Title IV funding, in order to stay in line with the Title IV funds, you're supposed to, number one, reunification always has to be the goal.
Right.
That doesn't happen in a lot of these things. So, it seems like there's a lot of jumping the gun, or if not. But anyway, there's a ton of money out there, but it seems like the people that are your bosses, they're not spending this money in the right way. Like, because you're not getting it, like you're saying, you need more funds. Well, there's billions and billions and billions of dollars going into this department. It should be easy for you to get this stuff, but it's not. So, like, there's your frustration.
I think you're looking at it wrong. I think you're looking at it not from like the department has funds. I think it's like the people who are qualified to provide the service and the level of burnout that so one of the programs is, HCT. HCT is a program that's an in-home service that provides behavioral health professionals, BHPs, or clinicians, and clinicians. So that's two providers who are providing high level of care for one child.
Mm-hmm.
That's two individuals providing high level of care for one child. And you have a massive wait list for those services for two people to provide for one child.
Right. And that's because you don't have the money for it, correct?
And it's not us as CPS, it is the services available. It's like saying, like,
oh, so you're saying that there's just not enough people out there to do it?
At 100%. It's like saying, like, you're on a wait list for a therapist. You're on a wait list for a primary care physician. You're on a wait list for XYZ, a medication manager. There are so many wait lists for providers, and it goes above the department, the CPS. It goes above that in regards to, and I watched your last show about just politics, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people who want to help others and can't afford it.
Right.
My background is I have a bachelor's in psychology, and I am licensed as a social worker. So I meet all of the criteria to be a social worker.
So you're comfortable with being trained to violate people's constitutional rights?
Oh, Jesus, pause. I don't like that. I don't like that.
Hold on. Whether you like it or not.
Pause.
There are hard evidence has already been presented, ma'am, in your own policies and procedures.
I'm gonna pause you because my ethical background is to make sure that I help individuals.
Yes, that's the great push that they take to use, ma'am.
I'm not done.
This is called debate, where we come back and forth, and you put me on pause, which is interrupting me to get your viewpoint out, ma'am.
I haven't finished what I was talking about.
Because you talked over me, and you didn't let me finish.
Okay, go ahead. You go ahead.
So it's as simple as it's printed in your policies and procedures, as well as your handbooks, that you violate constitutional rights, such as entering a home. You realize that according to federal case law, that you're not allowed to enter anybody's home without a warrant or a court order, and it has to be issued by a Title I or Title III courtroom, is first off. And that anything else, that if you do not have a warrant or a court order or extenuating emergency, which under the case law, now understand this is federal case law, anything else is called coercion, ma'am.
Sir.
But how much training have you had to get past that front door?
Sir.
And don't lie to me, because I already know who you're getting the training from nationally.
Sir, I have never entered a home ever in my life without an offer. 100%. No one has, warrant or otherwise, I have never entered a home without someone offering me to become in their home. I've 100%.
I'm glad you said that. Because federal case law specifically says anything other than not having a warrant or a court order or an emergency is called coercion to enter. And it is a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment right, ma'am.
Okay.
You do realize you just walked right into that, and because federal case law says and define that, under the Chevron doctrine, you guys were getting away with this.
I don't know what you're talking about, because I've never entered a home without.
But what did you say? Go ahead, say the rest.
I said I've never entered a home without someone allowing me, or offering me. Yes.
Okay. So they invited you over.
Without
or were you following up on an anonymous phone call?
I apologize.
Were you following up on an anonymous tip or a phone call when you made those entries, and then you coerced your way into the house? Because under that federal case law, you cannot be invited, because unless they called you there, ma'am, that goes to intent.
Listen, sir, I have always called the family, explained the reason why I am involved, requested to meet with them in person, and then have been offered to come into their home. I have never coerced a family to say, I need to come to your home. I need to gain entry to your home in order for this to be determined inappropriate or what have you.
You're telling me part of you need to tell me at least what state you're from.
I apologize, sir, because I have not done speaking. I have always informed. No, excuse me, sir. I have always informed my families that I have worked with why I'm involved and what next steps that I need to do to determine.
You need to do.
Okay. So, sir, you've already determined that my job is invalid. So, I cannot answer your questions without, like, you. I'm just.
So where's the money? I mean, the whole point is to help the families to get back and stay with reunification and have that both sides of the aisle type thing. The point is this: there are good social workers out there. There are people that want to take and truly help these families. But the point is that's not the motive that is being given by your higher ups. Even all the way up to the state.
You have already determined that my job in itself is unethical.
Ma'am, do you receive bonuses? And what are your bonuses for?
Not in regards to taking children into custody. Not in regards to taking children into custody or placing them with other families.
Now, you work directly for CPS.
I have worked directly for CPS, yes.
Okay. What is the actual title of your job? Because there are different titles: investigators, orders directly to the court, several other supervisors, so on and so forth.
I have worked as an investigator, and I have worked as an intake worker.
Intake worker. Okay. Now, you said you also had a degree in psychology, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, would you agree with saying that psychology is a soft science?
What do you mean by that?
In other words, no, you cannot take and put somebody in a box in psychology and say all people are like this.
Hey Gunnar, could I say something? She before you came on the show, she made it very clear that there are good cops, bad cops, good
Fully aware of
social
that.
workers, and okay. So when
So
you're talking to her, wait. Don't batter her because I'll turn her off. When you're talking to her, you got to keep in mind that she understands there are good social workers, there are bad social workers. There are good cops, there are bad cops. I even know
yeah,
that. Okay?
let,
So
let,
you
let
can't
me,
put her in a box.
I'm not. What I'm
Okay.
doing is testing her, improving her of where she is at by her responses within genuine communication and to sift her out of where she falls. Now,
Sir,
I get
I've
maybe I don't
always
have
been
to understand that, but
transparent.
I understand that even the good ones to turn around have said, I'm walking away because I'm seeing what's happening. Now, I'm getting to that to see where her relevance is and where she's educated as far as what knowledge she has of actually what is going on and what is happening and what is being done, and as far as her participation in it. Now, the only way I can do that is yes, I'm going to take and spark a controversy or something to come in there to get her honest answers. It's the only way to get honest answers is to take and do that. Once again, I'm not going to tell you why, but there's a reason you confront somebody the way that you do to get the honest answers just by telling the things in their voice.
I've been a cop for over 30 years, and I do exactly the same thing you do. I
Well,
know
see,
exactly the method.
then we're
Yes,
on the
I know.
same
But
page.
yes,
So
but I
my
don't know if you heard the prefix of what Darren said in the
yes, I
beginning
did.
when she came
Yes, I
on.
did. So
Okay,
at the
good,
same
good.
time, I've also had an interaction with some that are really good at telling a lot of lies because they reach the propaganda line. And there are several people that they are paying even now to go on and find some of these shows and to go through and soften you up of saying it's not that bad. I'm not saying there's not families out there that don't need help. The point is that this is supposed to be voluntary help that is being shoved down people's throats and violating their constitutional rights, such as questioning anybody on private property is an automatic Fourth Amendment right violation. They're not even
I think she
supposed to
knows
be
that.
in your home.
I think
So
she knows that.
going back, okay, so going back to that, as well as, like I said, not saying that there's not profit. We've already shown on this show that it's profit, because if it doesn't do that, you're going to go through the kids and putting them through something with the courts and anything else. That's not a help. That's a burden.
Sir, can I
I
can I
think I
make
think she
can I
agrees.
make a statement?
No, his name is not Darren. His
Go ahead.
name is Gunner.
Let her respond. I mean, I'd
Can I
love to
make a
hear her
statement real
response on it.
quick? Can I make a statement? My presence here tonight is to help families navigate the system and to help children become back in their homes. My I'm not here to coerce people or to to make sure that the department or CPS is viewed as appropriate or what have you. Like, my role here tonight is to help kids become like safe in their family's care. And I'm not here to make sure that CPS in whole is determined appropriate. I'm here to help families. And if you want to, battle whether CPS is appropriate or not, that's not my role. But if you want to do that maybe you can do that with someone else. However, I'm here to help families. That is, I'm not a bad cop. I'm not a bad social worker. I'm not a bad
Now,
doctor.
ma'am,
I'm
ma'am,
here to.
I,
But no, I'm not
I'm
that.
not accusing you of being that. Okay. My
Well,
point
I
is
honestly, I feel like it.
once again, you're getting a genuine reaction out of somebody, and Herbert will understand that too. Sometimes we have to excite people to get some of the truth out. It is a method of withdrawing the truth. If you're going to get upset or feel appalled at what I'm saying, I know you're more honest, but you can tell a lot in the voice or anything else of where you stand. And there's a lot of people in here. We have had the games played on us, run on us, in the whole damn 9 yards, even to the point of lying, falsifying evidence, forgery, perjury. I mean, the whole 9 yards. You may be one of the good ones, and I'm glad you are. And your viewpoint is for them to come in. Great, it's a service like anybody else's. The way it was originated. I know the entire history of CPS, starting all the way back to the sanitariums. They were still in charge of that. And they used what they learned in the sanitariums and switched over to Department of Children and Family Services, because all those kids that had autism and special needs and everything else now live among us. And how much true training do you have with neurodivergent children? The cause of most, which is being coming out now, that's within our same food, that the same government told us this is safe to freaking eat. How much trust do you have in this when you have these children like this and people coming in that just want to shuffle numbers and are not equipped to deal with neurodivergence?
Oh, trust me, I have kids. I watch what they eat. I like, and that was one of the questions in regards to the last discussion. Like, I have kids. I very much am I'm a parent. I know who their teachers are. I know the school system that they're in. I know who their medical provider is. I know what they consume. I'm very, very involved in my kid's life. And, you know, I completely
But how does the system
validate.
that becomes when you're put out there, ma'am, is my question. I'm going to get back to the question. I understand that was personal. We've cleared up the personal attack. We agree you're a good person and you're working towards something here. Okay. My question is how does the system fail with neurodivergency as things coming out, as we're learning as we can, and as social as psychiatry being a soft science, saying no two people are the same? And give you an example. One person may be extremely well narcissistic or
oh, trust me, I've been exposed to that.
Well, and like I said, and one turns out it depends on their choices. The thing we have to affect is their choices. And it's either one becomes a mass murderer or serial killer, and the FBI has done dramatic studies on this, or a high entrepreneur in a Fortune 500 company. But it has to do with the decisions that they're making. And most of the time, the big solution that CPS has, especially with a lot of people here, is you're not good enough to help influence the child to make good decisions. Life happens to all of us. And here's the scary part. With the stuff you have on the books and laws in all 50 states, if something happened like it happened in North Carolina, and I'm just on the other side of that mountain, so I know what I'm talking about, that they're out there stealing kids after having a dramatic accident, is a bunch of crap.
And I'm not
we are supposed to come together and help each other. What good is it going to take after you just went through a flood or a hurricane or anything else, and the first thing they do is come scooping kids up?
What were you going to say, Debbie? She was going to respond to you, Gunnar.
That's what I'm looking for, is those two things: autism and how do you take and deal with kids that are neurodivergent with what's going on, because there seems to be a huge lack of training. Second off is, what do you do with the stuff that the laws are on the book, the company you work for, that you're told to go to a disaster zone and go get children?
I can't speak on behalf of that because I'm not in that zone. I don't. Honestly, I can't. And I'm not going to pretend that I can.
But what I'm saying, ma'am, I'm asking, you're dancing around the question. My question is if your employer sent you to go do just that, that's who you work for, would you go do that to a family that just went out of a hurricane or mudslide or a flood and start taking their children?
I'm like I said, I
this
cannot.
Is something you have to ask yourself.
Hey, Gunnar, she's trying to talk. Gunnar, she's trying to talk to you. She's trying to speak.
You say go ahead, but you haven't given me the space to do so. Okay, so I am not a part of that CPS situation, so I cannot 100% speak to that. I cannot, and that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to speak for the nation. That's not my responsibility. I came in to help families. I cannot speak for that demographic. That is not my place.
And by the way, Gunnar, before she even came on, I interviewed her for over an hour on the phone.
Okay.
before I even introduced the idea about her coming on Darren's show, because I want to make sure she was real or fake, and I found her to be real.
I've
She
run
didn't.
into good ones. I trust that, like what you're saying there. It's just
But
some of us
she doesn't
are
have
going crazy.
she doesn't have all the answers for every state. One of the
I'm
things
not
she explained to
asking,
me
that's
that
not the
every
intent of the state. No. I asked a simple question, not about that state. I said, if your boss, the same one that done the same thing in North Carolina, ordered you wherever you're at after a natural disaster to go scoop up kids from families that just got destroyed, would she do it? That's me asking an employee if they would do what their employer told them to do that is legal under the law.
okay, let's listen to the answer. Debbie, you have an answer for that?
100% if it's based on a natural disaster, no, I would quit my job.
Okay.
I
Beautiful.
have no idea what's going on in North Carolina in regards to the social work, in regards to the CPS protocol or what have you. If it's based on I have worked with families that are homeless and have not taken their children into custody.
So
That is
I mean,
not a requirement to take a child into custody in the state that I've worked in.
Debbie, just you don't have to give us like a full ballpark, but how many families have you actually TPR'd?
Several.
How many families have you reunified?
Several. And I am more happy to see a child safely and happily in the care of their provider than I am to navigate a system for years on end. I don't want a child in the system. I do not want a child in the system. I want a child to be safe in the care of the family. If a biological parent can do that safely, 100% I will support them. If they cannot provide for their child, I will happily place them elsewhere. And I apologize if that offends anyone, but I'm here for the safety and the happiness of the child.
Okay, well, let me propose another situation for you. And this is something our country has seen. What happens if we have the next Great Depression and nobody can provide for nothing? What happens then?
I don't
The
know.
government comes and takes all the children because under your theory and under that thing, we're here to help the children. Everybody's starving. Now they become property of the government.
Sir, honestly, I'm not going to say that I know. Because I don't.
What we're scared about that most people are talking about is the fact this is a real possibility we have to look at, which is probably one of the drives of why some of the election went the way it was or anything else, because we didn't want that. We were driving towards people losing everything. And if you lose everything, you're going to happen what happened over in North Carolina, and they're going to tell you go get the kids. Why? They can't afford them.
So what?
But we don't control the economy. See, you're asking. This is why some people have a huge issue with it. Your part of the problem is the people that are elected and appointed officials that are driving this country and steering it, including our economy. So the reason we can't afford our kids isn't always our fault.
Oh, trust me, I know.
And it's hit everybody. So how does that? Once again, your determining line, though, Debbie, was if they can't provide for them, they can't this and that. We don't control inflation.
Oh, I
but
know.
You realize
like
the
I
power
said,
that office has been given. That if we don't meet your criteria, you steal all the poor people's children.
That is not it. Like I said, I can barely provide
those
for
are
the
the
kids
laws
that
that
I
are on the
have.
book.
Oh no, I know, sir. Trust me, I know. I just went to the grocery store and my grocery bill was outrageous.
Now, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know where you're at, but congratulations. You just probably experienced just a taste of what some of the ghettos and the bayous are doing, that they're stealing their children left and right because they can't
Sure.
provide.
I have navigated the system myself. Like, I have been on the poverty line. Like, I know. I know. I completely understand where everyone is coming from, of like pinching pennies and making sure that there's food on the table and there's a shelter in place for my kids. I 100% know. And like I said, I don't get incentives for taking kids into custody. That is not my role. That is not my place. Like, that is not the reason why I do my job. I do my job to make sure that kids are safe, because that fulfills me.
So what policies do you see changing, especially with the big call out for homeschooling, due to the fact a lot of your training has demonized people for homeschooling?
That
issues.
in itself is so infuriating to me. I 100% support people educating their kids at home. I think it is plausible. I think it's doable. I think that people should have the right to do so. If I could do it on my own, I would. I'm a single parent, and I can't. But I feel like with every don't get mad at me, but with every situation, there's the good and there's the bad, and there's the people who said that they're going to homeschool their kids and they don't, and then and then something bad happens because you don't have access.
Let me ask you a question. There's a question that Cricket is asking. To Debbie, there's a question Cricket asks. She wants to know, what would you do if someone called in and to have your children removed? Like, let's say a neighbor. You're having an issue with your neighbor or whatever, and they call CPS and they lied and saying that you're doing this and doing that to your kids. You will be approached by CPS. Am I correct?
Sure. Yeah. So if
and they're threatening to take your children. Yeah.
Wow. So I would ask why they're involved. And that this is something that I've already said on this conversation. I would ask why they're involved. 100%, you need to know why CPS is involved. Is it physical abuse? Is it emotional? Is it a neglect? Why are you involved? What are the allegations? So say, hey, my kids aren't being fed. Okay. That is the allegation. Or what have you. Let's say my kids went to school and said, I'm hungry, my mom doesn't feed me, what have you. Okay. Why are you involved? Okay. Your child reported that you didn't have any food in the home. They weren't being fed. Okay. Come into my home. You clearly see that I have food in the fridge. You clearly see I have food in the cabinets. My kids clearly are not malnourished. You can contact their providers here. I will sign a release. And you can have contact with whomever you want, because my child clearly is not going without. They may have said that they went hungry because they went without a snack, which we've all experienced. If we've had a kid, we've all experienced that. We've said no to a child who doesn't want a snack. Okay. We've had that experience. Okay. If your child says, oh, go ahead.
You realize you just described coercion to enter.
I didn't say that the caseworker was entered in my home.
Once again, you said come into my home and look into my fridge. That's
I
coercion.
didn't say that I was coerced.
You don't have food.
I didn't say it was coerced. I wasn't coerced. I said come on in.
Once again, a social worker can't enter. That's what that federal case law says. You're not even to go in. You're not invited.
But sir, I said come on in. I'm not coerced.
She said, come in.
I said, come on in. I
She said, come in.
I said, I'll offer you a meal. You want to come sit to dinner with me? Come sit to dinner with me. I was not coerced.
And as soon as that's coercion, ma'am. That's what the law is protecting, both sides of the coin.
What's the definition of coercion?
False impression to gain entry.
There was no
That's what
false.
it is.
There was no false. There was nothing false.
How long
It sounds.
because you said something about there's no food in the fridge, so they're going to take. No, I'm going to prove you. That's a form of soft coercion. That's why the law is there for you to enter the home for any reason. You're supposed to have those.
Coerced to do something by using force or threat. I wasn't forced or I wasn't threatened.
Ma'am, there's already federal case law on this.
Sir,
You're arguing a moot
forced or
point.
threatened.
You are going under the Chevron doctrine, ma'am, and you are interpreting the laws the way that you see fit, which is exactly what's been going on. Federal case law is the top demand or your record that you have to take in and go by. Federal case law, that judge, that Supreme Court federal judge, says you must have this, this, this. Anything else is coercion, is what he said.
Or threatened. I wasn't forced,
ma'am,
to enter.
You can argue all day with me, but if we go to court, you're done.
I'm confused.
I wasn't threatened.
I'm confused.
It was explained to me that these were the allegations. They didn't force entry and they didn't threaten anything. These were the explanations.
You need to listen to you need to go look at the case law and look that one up, because that was not the judge's thing. It was on intent. Did that yes or no? Intent.
Hey, Debbie,
hey Darren, you got to jump in.
What is considered imminent danger in your eyes, or the department that you work for? What is imminent danger?
Wait, I apologize. Who's asking that?
This is Darren. What do they classify imminent danger as? Like, what type of a situation, or is there a definition that you guys go by for that?
It does depend on the situation. It depends on, so let's give an example. Substance abuse. That's like a huge one right now, right? For all states. Substance abuse. Is a parent currently using or currently impaired? Is the child at a vulnerable age? It depends on, is the child 3 years old? Is the child 16 years old? Can they actively care for themselves? It depends on the substance. It depends on, there's a lot of information that goes into that decision.
Right. Well, that's the thing, but they're using that word based on just coming to get your kid, that they're in imminent danger. And I mean, obviously you're different. You're definitely different than most of these caseworkers. I don't see you as coming in and saying, oh, it's imminent danger because of this one thing. But in most of these situations, we're having them hide behind this word imminent danger and removing kids. Like, it seems like everybody, if you watch our show and you listen to our show, you'll see that the people around the world, aside from you, honestly, I'm like, where is this caseworker? Because why is she not here with every one of us that are in this situation? But they're using this word imminent danger to come in and use that for a reason, to just come and grab your kid immediately. And that's what's going on. I'm a firm believer that imminent danger needs to be specified to what is imminent danger. It needs to be more definitive than just that word.
It is defined, Darren. It's defined in that same case law about the Fourth Amendment entry. The federal government, the federal courts, the judicial branch of government has already defined it. It doesn't need to be defined. They need to follow what the damn law says.
Well, what is the definition?
They haven't been following federal law.
So what does the definition of it say?
So, Darren, depending on the state, it depends on their standard decision-making model. So, SDM. And I would highly recommend any family working with the department, which I've already said prior, to ask the caseworker what the safety issue is and how can they mitigate it. Because a caseworker, depending on the caseworker,
is it SDM? Is that what you said, Debbie? SDM?
SDM is the standard decision-making model. Okay. And that is the guideline of what caseworkers go off of to determine the level of threat, the level of risk And that kind of determines, it's like a guideline. Obviously, a caseworker is going to make like that final decision, because
It's be open.
if say, okay, a mom used marijuana during pregnancy, okay, whatever, a mom used marijuana during pregnancy, that's not going to be something that a caseworker gets involved in the state that I work in.
Okay.
However, if that mom had 3 prior TPRs, we are obviously going to get involved to determine the level of safety of that child. Does that mean that we're automatically going to get that child into custody? It depends. It depends on if that the severity of the previous, investigations meets that level,
Well, ma'am, you realize these are all your policies and procedures for your work, but you do realize the Constitution and those things that they stand for are the ultimate, and they have a supremacy clause that every state goes to. You cannot violate them at all. Not only will your immunity be stripped, you will be charged with a federal crime.
Sure, what have I said that I was going to be charged with a crime?
Ma'am, deprivation of rights under the color of law, you better look up what the penalty is.
What did I do?
No, I'm simply giving you information, education, and beware, because your policies and procedures that your employer is going by is not always in your best interest, and they're going to set you up for something really bad.
That a judge signed off on?
It doesn't matter if it's a state court. Don't mean crap when it comes to constitutional rights. They'll hang you for that stuff. You realize you're dealing with children and a crime, let alone a constitutional crime against a child? That's a multiplier. You should know that with children.
Sir, have you been on this whole time? Have you heard
I don't
everything
think so.
I've discussed?
I've heard
think so.
pieces of everything, like I said, that's with there. But my
I
point
don't
is
think
you
you're
make you aware of that was my question. And I'm trying to send you a warning here of saying there's a lot of you recount, hey, this is our policy, this is our procedure, this is our thing, and they rely on that as being definitive. You have got to stop, just like every officer in the military is told. You can follow every order out there except for an unconstitutional one. They want you to think and not just obey. And what I'm saying is a lot of the stuff that you're regurgitating, whether you know it or not, if that situation happened and it took to the court, I say, well, she let me in. I didn't know I said the judge is going to ask about intent under that case law. Did she invite you over? No. Then that goes into intent. And that's if things change. Say you go in and you have a great time and you have dinner with them, this, that. Next thing you know, your supervisor says, hey, go get those kids or we need to do more in this. And all of a sudden they start pushing back. Now that one entry turns into a coerced entry. Why? Because you've elevated or you've escalated that. And that's how the courts see that. And it's not the state. You can hide behind the state all you want, ma'am. But when it comes to federal court, that federal judge is going to say, I don't give a shit about what your state says. We're in federal court, and this is a constitutional matter. You don't have jurisdiction in the state. You'll learn that one real fast. I'm telling you to watch out or you're going to get caught up.
And like I've said previous times, I cannot speak on behalf of other caseworkers, but I've always been transparent with the families that I have worked with. This is why I'm involved. These are the next steps I need to do XYZ. These are your rights as a parent.
So I can tell CPS to piss off.
What's that?
I can tell CPS to piss off at any time.
100%.
Funny, then somebody ought to teach the rest of the caseworkers that everybody in this room has been dealing with. That's not the case, ma'am.
But listen, if I have serious concerns about your child, I will do whatever I need to do to ensure your child is safe.
Well, once again, you better look under your state's constitution because the people of each and every state is not property of the state.
I love
Therefore, you have no jurisdiction over
care about your child's safety.
Sorry, ma'am, but they're not property of the state. There's the big problem.
I didn't say they were property of the state. I said
well, you assume you're going to come in and do something. Yes, you assume that legally, ma'am.
Child.
That's called legal, which is why you guys are fighting in a civil courtroom for a legal position over authority of the child. Are
Sir,
you not?
I'm not gonna fight. I'm not gonna fight with you because you already
It's not a
have your
fight, ma'am.
stand.
This is the truth. Everybody is going
Hey,
through.
Darren.
Okay.
Hey, Darren, you coming
You
in?
want to come on here and be real? We're telling you the other side of the story of
You
what we're
set the
going
ground
through.
rules in the beginning, Darren.
Yep. All right.
You set the ground rules in the beginning. Remember?
Yep. That's it. So let's hold off, everybody. Let's end this now. Let's do our last thoughts. Debbie, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I really do appreciate you coming on here and doing this. I apologize if it seems like banter, but I'll be honest, it's just a very emotional subject for a lot of people because most of us on here have lost our kids. So, and it's not you necessarily that people are at war with, it's the idea. And I know that you aren't one of those people that I can tell by you that you're not that person. And I applaud you and I thank you for coming on to give guidelines to help. Like I just found that FDM thing. That's huge information that I never knew about. The guidelines that you guys go by to get that information. I just put a link up there. See, there's things that people can look at to know that are in this situation. And we got that from you. So I appreciate you being on for that. And by no means, I don't think Gunner's attacking you personally. It's the ideal and he's emotionally involved in this too. So don't take any of this stuff as attack at you personally. It's just we don't ever get the opportunity to get answers from people that are involved in this. It's just a matter that there is someone here. So I just want to issue that out to you. It's just, I knew that tonight would be a sensitive subject for a lot of people with you being here because no one ever has access to this. And I want to thank you for that very much because it is going to prove to be helpful more than it will be hurtful for sure. But we do this thing called Last Thoughts, and I want you to start in it if you don't mind. You want to give your last thoughts for tonight?
Every parent has the right and responsibility to take care of their kid, and if they have any questions, please reach out to Herbert so that we can communicate to navigate that.
Perfect. Excellent. Herbert, last words, buddy?
Try to do everything you can to learn about CPS, the system. Avoid being a target of CPS, and just try to do everything right for now until the system is overhauled. The CPS system needs to be overhauled. There's no doubt about that, Debbie. I think you'll agree with me. And until that happens, we have to go along with the program and try not to buck up against it, because then we just buck ourselves, make it worse, get with a social worker who has an attitude and is acting subjective, like the bad cop, and next thing you know, you lose your children. So avoid being a victim, avoid being target of CPS.
Yep, you got that right. Gunner, last thoughts, buddy.
Propaganda's been around for the longest time, and even some of the most loyal soldiers thought that they were just doing their duty during World War II. But it doesn't mean that it was the right thing. I think a lot of people on both sides need to open their eyes and realize what they're doing and the amount of harm and damage they're doing that can never be undone. If you want to avoid true trauma, leave these families alone, help them to heal, give them the resources they need, but back off. And unless it's a criminal case, I've got no desire for anything else other than that. My Constitution says, leave me the hell alone. And I think that's what most people want to be left alone, is to do that. And instead of anonymous calls and being harassed, that's a social program. That happens in China. That shouldn't be happening here. If it's a law enforcement, it should be law enforcement. Don't play around in the civil courts and start stealing children. If there's something criminal, fine. Other than that, offer the services, let it be voluntary, but then let there be severe penalties and a checks and balances system. There's not. So both sides have ate up the propaganda. We've slowly let our freedoms taken erode. And this is where we're at. Now we're fighting on two different sides and both seeing two different things. So the final thought is, you really do need to think of the kids. And the way to think of the kids is to help the parents, not persecute them.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Amen to that. Vinny.
Well, I'm just going to say this, listening to all sides of this avenue tonight, even Gunner's side, your side, Herbert's side, Debbie's side. I think we need more caseworkers like Debbie out there that are willing to stick up for these families, and that are willing to go the extra mile, because the caseworkers in other states are not, and they're not doing anything to help these parents. And I find this to be utterly wrong. So
Yep.
I'm going to leave it at that.
All right. I'm going to tie right into you there, Vinny, too, and what Gunnar said. We all need to take a look at what's going on out there with the open eyes. And, maybe it isn't best for all of us to think that we are the best for something. And eventually we're all going to come to the realization that we're all fighting for the same thing. I'm the CPS Punisher. Thank you very much, Debbie. We are out of here.
Let's go. The world getting crazy, baby, chill. Don't medicate, just meditate. You waking up now, well, baby, you hella late. Educate, look at what's going on, let it resonate, accelerate. Find your inner hunger like you never ate. Agenda is to push the hate. Separate and segregate, don't celebrate quite yet. The storm is coming, cue for heaven's sake. Violence that they demonstrate, instigate and penetrate the values of our country. And our God is what they desecrate. My fighters ain't no featherweight, pulling out the seams of the fabric that they fabricate. They feed us lies, manipulate, intimidate through fear and force, forcing us to sit and wait till we come together, congregate, and then we liberate. Praying that you give me strength to find some love amongst the hate. Marching on the streets of blood till I see the golden gates. Troubadour, troubled souls, one of God's servants. Blades out, cut the grass till we see the serpents.
One day I hope you see the truth. This puppet show, it stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.
I know the truth is hard to swallow, just digest it. Suspected something's going on, chosen just neglected, deflected by some breaking news. Oh, we just accept it, expected just to fall in line and follow their perspective. Don't question their objectives, but I got a lot of questions. How these kids molested, but nobody's been arrested. Read it in the testament, these children are protected. So I'm fighting all these terrorists, both foreign and domestic. Refuse to be directed, lying not a sheep, only kneel to my God. So I'm dying on my feet. Silence when we speak, but there's violence in the street. I've been rolling with the punches, I can't take it on the cheap. Nah, drink from a glass half full, I'm optimistic. People are sadistic, so vicious and malicious. Praying for assistance to overcome opposition, or I'm gonna start resisting and then I'll pray for forgiveness.
Oh, one day I hope you see the truth. This puppet show, it stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now. We need you now. This puppet show, it stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need